Hey guys, how's it going? Hey Grody, well, I sent you a text this week. Did you get the text?
I did. I texted you back, didn't I?
Yeah, I was just wondering if it was you or if your phone was robbed or something, because you got a new phone.
No. That was me, all right.
Right.
Come here to me. One thing just now, I will say is and I hate to have to do it, but just in case we talk for 20 minutes and then you drop in a red pill that's too hard for YouTube, then I'll have to take down the whole thing. So
I'll keep it calm. I'll keep it calm. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I understand.
So what's the crack? Any
Well,
thoughts?
my opinion. I'm dying to give my opinion on this RTE hatchet job. Because there was a couple of points that they made that I was screaming at the television saying, "You completely dishonest hypocrites!" Like the British guy coming on, like he's sitting there like an expert on replacement migration, like he described it as a pseudoscience, like it's a conspiracy theory. It's actually happening. I mean, we know concrete evidence is telling us that it's happening. We're actually we're witnessing across the Western world is the early signs of a white genocide. It's unbelievable how dishonest they are, and it's upsetting to think that the people, the normies. So I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but the people who are just quietly living their lives and working the 9 to 5, they don't have time to research all this. They're just going to take it on the chin and say, "Oh, that's the truth. It's a conspiracy theory." There's no cause for alarm there. If he's saying it's pseudoscience and all, then we won't get involved with that kind of thing.
Yeah, but, I noticed. I noticed when he said that, I had the exact same visceral reaction you did, because he said a lot of the arguments they make are this conspiracy theory on the Great Replacement and demographic change and all that. And I was kind of shouting at the telly saying, "Well, wait, what's wrong about it?" Like exactly the same. Which part of that is incorrect?
I jumped at the telly. I said, "That's a so blatant lie. Like it's completely the opposite of what's actually happening."
Yeah.
Completely gaslighting the people altogether. Total deliberate gaslighting. I mean, it's not just like an accident. Like they don't know. These people know. These people are the experts. They know exactly what replacement migration means in the UN documents. They know exactly what it means. So that was one point. And the second point was that woman, the blonde woman that they pinpointed. She says she's a bit famous in the protest at the Mulhuddard about the 50-50 protest. They tried to label her as some kind of nasty racist. They had to trawl back to 2017 on one single Facebook post where she described rapists who rape women and children as dirty animals. Now, I'd stand by them words myself. I'd second that, I'd say these immigrants coming in. Now, I'm not saying all immigrants, but there's certain contingent among them who would rape women and children, and I think they're dirty animals myself. And by the way, the hypocrisy of saying you're dehumanizing people. Well, these are the people who, by their religion, believe that we're equal to monkeys and pigs. Right?
Yeah.
So
it's. I mean, you're not going to get RT looking at that, are you?
They try to present her as some vile racist. In the post, in context of what she was talking about, I would completely agree with what she said, and the fact that they had to trawl back. How many years? 3 years. Over 3 years, they came up with one post. Where's the pattern to be had of this vile racist? How many years did they have to go back to find some shit on her, which was taken out of context, by the way?
And it completely I was waiting for them because what they did was they screen shared the article and they kind of highlighted the bits where she said the trigger words, animal, etc. And I was waiting. I was like, hold on a second now. Scroll down to what she was referring to, the article itself. I want to know what specifically she was referring to, because I was like, I know it's about something. It's not just like it's not like
they tried to present it like a gotcha moment, like a big gotcha moment when they highlighted just the thing, just give you a quick 2-second glimpse of the post. But even in the words that she highlights, in context, she was talking about people who rape women and children, right?
Yeah.
So she's talking about that category of people.
Yeah.
So it's really not a big deal.
One thing I noticed as well, I don't know if you picked up on this, and I'm not slighting anyone I'm not saying anyone on it, oh, they didn't do as perfect a job as I would have done or something, because this isn't even a critique, so that's the wrong word. Just observation. The observation I'm making on some of the people here, I probably would have been subject to as well. If I was on the telly and they're doing pressure and all that, I get it. But it says a lot about the regime as it is that, actually 2 points. One is that it was great to see ordinary people, some of whom I didn't recognize. I've met Alice Woods and some others, but there were some normal people at some of these protests that I don't know, that were making points about immigration, etc., to the camera. They're not covering their face like Antifa, and they were just saying it like it is. So that was great. But just 1 point on it is that I noticed a slight kind of fear in some people. And again, that's not a criticism on them. It's a criticism on the regime as it is, that they're kind of going, the journalist is saying, so what's your take on immigration or something? And people are kind of, they feel, it's like people have a gun pointed at them because they know that it's going to be twisted out of context. They're going to be called evil, whatever. And they're taking a brave step to speak about it. So I don't know. I was happy to see people do it. But I resent the media in a way, the fact that as people were saying their various bits, there was a little bit of trepidation and fear. And I'm like, you know what? We shouldn't have to be afraid, like in front of these cameras, you know?
No, well, I think the people they were talking to, they're clued in enough to know that RTE is completely dishonest fake news and they're going to do a hit job on you. You know, I think they know that much. So they would be on tender hooks, you know, they would be on thin ice with them. So, fair play to them all.
Nobody else has to.
I say fair play to every single individual who stepped up to the plate there. You know, they're trendsetters and leaders in Ireland. You know, in the small little thing that they did there on the primetime television, they're doing huge things for Irish people. You know.
Yeah, in a time of, you know, it's a cringe to quote Orwell, but in a time of, you know, deceit or lies or whatever. Yeah, telling the truth is, what is it? A revolutionary act. It is every person on primetime tonight who said, because what they usually would do in past days, people might avoid it and say, I'm not talking to you, I'm walking away or whatever. Some people said, no, I will talk to you. And I'll say, there's too much immigration. We're being replaced. No one was asked. They said it. And that's a revolutionary act. It's actually more of a revolutionary act for someone off the street, so to speak.
I think they're afraid. I think they're afraid of the essence of the national movement, that our backbone is we're upright men and we won't back away from anything we've said. We'll stand by every single word we said. We're open and honest about it. You know, you'll never get a nationalist say, "Oh, I never said that. I never said that." You know, that kind of way.
I just want to take one. Oh wait. Oh yeah, sorry. I was looking at you on the YouTube, which is delayed, and you were talking, and I was like, I can't hear him, but he's talking. Never mind. But I just want to say, for NGO people and journalists watching this, if you could smash like, I would very much appreciate it. Do that for me, and thumbs up and share as well, please. But it's one major thing I just want to highlight as well for you know, people in general. Is never ever apologize. You know what I mean? Because you haven't done anything wrong. You know, these people's, like, you know, I just loved with Alice Woods. He kind of came at her with this kind of twisting of reality, and she said, "I'm not going to backtrack on that." I thought that was fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Never ever apologize.
Well, I explained in a live stream with the Dawn and Critique that when you're dealing with lefties, like any normal person, when you make a mistake, like you hold your hands up and say mea culpa, you know, I'm sorry, I messed up. But when you're dealing with lefties, when they try and back you into a corner and accuse you of some kind of wrongdoing or terrible sin of saying a word, never back down and never apologize to them, because the moment you apologize to a lefty, I said it before, they're going to turn up the heat on the attack and they're going to try and destroy it by saying, look, he's admitting to being wrong. He did something wrong, definitely. Now we can destroy him. So they'll continue the attack until you're destroyed. So don't give them an apology. They'll take it as a sign that they can now continue to destroy it. If you stand your ground and say, I'm not going to take back my words, I meant everything I said, but you've taken it out of context kind of thing. If you stand your ground, you know, there's nothing they can do to you. They can accuse you on the mainstream media and around Twitter and all of saying he said this and he said that. But the intelligent person will come to your outlet, your channel, and watch the words coming out of your mouth, and they'll find out what you're about. But don't let the lefties, don't give them the win by admitting to you're wrong to a lefty ever. You know?
And even as you say it, they're admitting to what wrong anyway. There is no wrong. You know, if you say, like the fella in England I was talking about there, all lives or white lives matter. I mean, you know, or whatever it happens to be. If you say Irish people are being replaced, why would you apologize for that? You like, again, it's a simple matter of basic moral principle that we all were raised with as kids. That's what I always say, is I was raised to stand up for what I believe in, do the right thing, all of that. And another aspect of that we were all hopefully raised with is you know, if you say something that's true and right, then, and if someone asks you to apologize, the first thing you would say is, what do I have to apologize for? I haven't said anything to apologize for. So no, not doing it.
I don't want to change the subject and make it all about me, but recently,
please do.
I did a live stream with a BLM anti-racist activist who lives in Dublin. He's from Jamaica, and I did it a couple of days ago. You know, people have been talking about it, and he kept on every second thing he said. He says, "That's racist, bro. That's racist. You shouldn't say that word. You shouldn't say this word. Like, I should apologize for what I just said." What I didn't say at the time, you know, you have them moments you say, "Oh, I should have said this and I should have said that." And you know, in hindsight, well, I mean, it was on my mind to say it, but it never came out in the flow of the conversation. I was going to say to him, you know, I didn't afford you the authority over my soul. You have no authority here to tell me what words I can and cannot use here. You know, and we're equal. We're equal, you know. You don't have the right nor the authority to correct my language and what words I choose to use. And
you're not my parish priest. You know what I mean? You can't go. You're not my sensei here. You're not my dad. I don't.
Well, look, it's my stance now that this is a spiritual war, never mind a political war. It's war with these people, and if they perceive that I'm said something wrong, then let them take me to a court of law in front of a judge and a jury of my peers, and I'll stand by my words and see how the people feel about it. I won't apologise. If I'm forced to apologise by the Irish nation, then maybe I'll see myself wrong. But I'm not going to let a man who's equal to me correct me and dominate me. No way.
Yeah, I mean, just one thing. One thing on that guy. I recognize his voice from. I saw a few clips of it. I recognize his voice from about a year ago. There was this guy online said something. I actually tweeted about it. He said something about, if anyone in the chat can remind me, he had a little clip. He said, Irish people are the most racist people in the world. They have killed and raped. He said something horribly defamatory anyway, what would actually count as so-called hate speech. But he sounds pretty, like, he has that voice. He's got this monotone, weird voice. But how did you end up? How did you end up talking to him?
I'll tell you the story. I came across. Now I'm on a group on Facebook. It's called Irish Around the World, and you get all these fucking lefties putting all their propaganda on it. And I got banned because this guy came along. He's a black Jamaican, and he's on this Irish Around the World page, spinning his propaganda to all the Irish people. And I called him out. I said something like, "Bring back segregation, right? Because multiculturalism has failed, right?" That's what I said. Now, in context, what I'm saying is what all the African Americans are saying in the black community in America. They're all calling for segregation, and they don't want whitey around in their schools and in their shopping malls and all. They want a segregated place, a safe space, you know, the lefty safe space for all these black people where they don't want whitey around. So they want segregation again, right? So I'm just championing their wishes. So I'm saying bring back segregation. Of course, because I'm white, I'm automatically the racist, right? There's hundreds of thousands of black people calling for segregation today in America, but when I say it, because of the color of my skin, I'm automatically booted off Facebook. Well, so I followed this guy from Facebook. I knew he had an Instagram page with his propaganda. I went over to Instagram to troll him, right? Because he got a bee in me bonnet about what he was posting. You know, he's posting these these memes about, you know, all the lists all the ways white men are racist. If you do this, if you do that, you're racist. If you have black friends and say, oh look, I have black friends, I'm not racist, then that means you're racist. If you don't have black friends, it means you're racist. You know, if you ask someone where you're from, that's racist. So everything to these Black Lives Matter and all, it's, you can't win with them. So we went over to Instagram to troll him, you know, make snarky, salty comments to try and get a response from him. And then he started responding to me. I said to him, come on a live stream on public and debate this with me. I want to talk about your bullshit, you know. So he point blank refused. He says, oh, I wouldn't talk to you. You're a racist, you know. But I tried to goad him into it and bring him round to the idea of doing a live stream. So we came on a live stream. Now he organised the live stream and I came onto his channel kind of thing. It's typical of these people that are completely dishonest liars, that at the end of the stream he start harping on about how out of the goodness of his heart he decided to make this public. He arranged it to make this public to spread awareness and all this shit. It was me who said to him, come on a fucking live stream and debate me. So he's trying to spin like he's the benevolent fucking host who's had this racist. And he had the English girls on trying to rag me and call me a racist C word and all. You know, I don't want to ruin your channel here, but with too much profanity. But she called me a racist C word and everything, and you know, the West Brits. And I thought it's typical. And the same with the RTE program tonight. They get these British people on. Automatically, you hear the British accent talking about Ireland's problems and how racist Ireland is, and how Ireland should be by a Brit. You know, we've been dealing with them interfering in Irish affairs for 800 years. You know, it's about time they stopped. It's about time they stopped coming on air and dictating to Ireland how Ireland should be. You know, leave the Irish to do that for themselves. So it was really annoying to get all of his followers on Instagram. They're all lefty, lesbian, pro Black Lives Matter and all this. There was one lesbian that come on. If you watch it, you'll see she identified. She was born in England. She came to Ireland. Her parents are Irish apparently, but she identifies as Jamaican. So she's bigging up the Padwan parlance. You know, me ting, me bro, and all this. It was a ridiculous character altogether. It was like watching a cartoon.
Is she the one? She kind of had glasses.
Well, they both had glasses. I mean, the lefties, it's a uniform with them. They all have the dark rim glasses. I don't mean you have dark rim glasses, but I mean with the lefties, it's coloured hair, dark rim glasses, probably red lipstick, or with the men, it's red lipstick and a beard. I know you have a beard. You're separate to them.
Well, actually, my glasses are one, they're clear frame, and two, I actually part of it is a subversive thing to kind of lay out a presentation as kind of like you know, I think of it like Blade. You know, Blade is half vampire, and so he's able to kind of he's able to take on the vampires because he's half it, but he sides with the humans.
Walk down the street and blend in.
There's a part of me can kind of, and at some level, identify with them in some kind of way, right? But I'm not them, and so I like to kind of be a little bit like them, like a Blade.
Yeah, you're so that's right. A protester, and if you look like one of them, you won't get so much heat. I understand that. Fair play to you for employing that tact and all. But these people, like with the dark rim glasses and the red lipstick and the colour hair, it's a uniform for them so they can identify each other in public. You know, oh, there's a lefty there. It's obvious, you know. So that's what they do. But it was a laughable interaction. Every second thing your man said, everything I said was racist, of course, and I needed to stop using certain words and all. I mean, I showed him a book written by a black man in America. I bought it recently because I'm tuned into this black and white divide in America, so I want to understand what's going on in the black community. It's written by a black American, and the title is, you know, the black man versus the N-word, right? You know, so that's the title of the book. So I showed them the book with the N-word, like the word "ni" all over it, and they couldn't respond. You know, I says, this is a book I bought in a shop with money, written by a black man. Where's the racism? You know, it's only a word. Relax, it's part of reality. You know, don't have a meltdown. And like the first English girl that came on, her hand was literally shaking.
Oh yeah,
She's like that. Her hand was shaking like she's an alcoholic because of the words I said. They're complete.
Jesus.
They're complete clowns and snowflakes. And
Yeah, they're like vampires in sunlight. I mean, yeah, it's great to just do that. I love doing it with people. Is when they try to say stuff to you like that, they try to moralize on you. Aside from the arguments that what you're saying is wrong, and they attach the word racist, this and that, and you just kind of go. I often snigger. I'm like, I think you've completely misunderstood the situation here because
I,
you know,
I,
I don't know. It's like, I don't know who you think you're talking to, but trust me, that has no relevance to me
everything they said
whatsoever.
back to me, everything they said back to me was they were trying to put words in my mouth and twist everything I was saying. You know, you said this and you said
Yeah,
that. Well, no, that's not actually what I said. If you listen to what I said, it's
yeah,
completely different slant on what I said. You know, um, I was dropping bombs on them. I was just dropping bombs on them. I wasn't. I held me back. I held back a little bit with the profanity and all, right, just for the sake of it, to be pleasant. I
mm,
was trying to be peaceable with him. He starts saying to me, "Oh, you know, I'm really trying to keep me cool here. Under normal circumstances, I'd be this and I'd be that." And I says, "What? You feel like being violent?" Right? You know, like the lefties, when they lose the rag, they fucking do violence. Especially the young black angry men tend to do violence, right? So I was joking with him, trying to break the ice. Do you feel like doing violence? You know, and he's with the monotone drone, you know, present the speech. He
yeah,
says, "Oh, you're stereotyping me." He didn't get the joke at all. They're completely alien to our culture. They're never going to get our culture. They're never going to adjust into Irish society. You know, they're a completely separate thing. That I was talking about, you know, the Jamaicans have a similar sense of humor with the Irish. I found that when I was talking to them in Birmingham. But Jesus Christ, this guy was like a drone. You know,
yeah,
it was
yeah, yeah.
unbelievable.
He didn't have that Jamaican kind of snap,
Look,
and that yeah,
the truth is, he's
sometimes
probably a bogus asylum seeker. He's from Africa. He's claiming to be from the West Indies. I don't know. You don't know with these
yeah,
people. But
yeah,
dropping bombs on them in mid sentence, he's telling me, "You have no culture. You're only about one culture. You're not cultured," he said. After
mm,
the black girl, or after the English girl, the lesbian bleeding rug muncher was saying, you know, she's Jamaican and all this kind of stuff. Your man starts telling me, "You have no culture. You're not cultured," right? Mid sentence, I pulled my dreads round like this. I says, "I have dreadlocks." You know, just like the
mm,
girl identifies as Jamaican, I wear dreadlocks. Am I cultural appropriating because he brought up cultural appropriation and all? And he stopped mid sentence. "That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying." He was trying to say that because I'm Irish nationalist, that I have no culture at all.
mm,
You know, it's unbelievable.
mm,
So I dropped a bomb on him just by doing this. I dropped a bomb on him and he shut up mid sentence.
yeah,
They're idiots, they are.
yeah.
Sorry for the
Um,
French.
no, no, no. That's cool. Like no culture. I mean, to me, Ireland is exotic. Ireland is dripping in culture. You know, it's funny. Like almost out of all the Western, well, maybe not Italy, Spain. They have a lot of culture too. But I mean, oozing in culture, Ireland is. You know, so I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, these people. That guy was like, I'm sure. You know, not to say you had a, you know, your debate against him. I'm sure you did valiantly against him, but you know, not to
Well,
diminish your
to
enemy.
be honest,
But he was a bit brain dead as well. Like, let's face it.
he was
Um,
just he was a drone, right? He was just a drone with the
yeah,
Black Lives Matter narrative and the Marxism. He was just
yeah,
pushing ahead. He wouldn't back away from his script. Do you know what I mean? NPC central. Do you know what I mean? You couldn't even have a joke with
mm,
the guy. You couldn't even lighten the mood and just have a little break the ice comment. You couldn't even do that with him. It was unbelievable.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't know what to say. Like he was having meltdowns because I was describing African people as Negro, right?
yeah,
In the comments we brought the idea of Africans should be in Africa, right? That's from I'm a Garveyite, right? There's a guy called Marcus Garvey in history, in American history, who he was a proponent and a champion of the idea that all Africans should go back to Africa and build Africa and make it a Wakanda. You know what I mean? It could be a utopia, and that's exactly what I was saying in the debate. And so I'm not disagreeing with you, man. I'm not disagreeing with you, man. But whenever it came to the subject of the Great Replacement and white genocide, right? First he tried to deny it, and then he admitted to it, right? He said, "Oh, sure, that's just the world. That's progress. You know, that's the one world melting into one and all." I says, "It's like, oh well, you know, it's convenient for the black man who outnumbers the white man 10-1. It's convenient to say intermix and all that. It means the end of the white race." I said to him, and he says, "Oh, that's just the one world love, one love. You know, it means the end of our
Here,
race."
the other thing as well that's bullshit about that is that I know this is true in Nigeria and across Africa, is that like if you go to Nigeria and you find a woman or a man, black Nigerian, who is hooked up with or something with a white person, that person will get endless abuse as a traitor and a scum and all this kind of stuff. They will get endless abuse. So it's completely frowned upon and all that. So again, it's like, okay, so you're talking about, when you talk about one world, you know full well that within your own community and within your own culture, you have all the traits and all the habits and all the taboos and stuff within your own culture to protect your own kind of people. And they are well in place for you guys. And they're the same things that, while you know you do it and you probably support it, you probably join the pylon. If white people or if Irish people do the same, you'll be crying to the government because it's racism or something like that.
Yeah.
They know full well the double standard on it, but they're just using it. It's pure cynicism. I don't pay a blind bit of notice to it. Like,
it's a pure what's the word? Premeditated. They have a premeditated schemata. They have training in how to feck up the West. You know. I think they're going to a script and they know exactly what to say. They've been trained in what to say. You know,
no, it's all just power as well. Like you'll see on Black Twitter in America, England, even Ireland. Let's say it could be like a primary school teacher who said something on their Facebook mildly, you know, dissident, or like, you know, to say we shouldn't have immigration, we're being replaced, something like that. And suddenly the Black Twitter or whatever it is will pile on, and they'll be like, one of them will find where she works. They'll be like, let's contact the employer, let's get them fired. Twitter, do your thing, or whatever, right? They do that. And bear in mind, they're not exercising their own power there. They are appealing to the regime. They're saying, I know I have the entire regime on my side, so I can just appeal to the upper class, the elites, and they will have your job. It's like it's pure ratting out. It's telling teacher, and that's the thing, is like, if you're telling teacher, that doesn't mean that you have power. It just means the teacher gives you power, gives you, I don't know, to use an American term, hall monitor power. That's all the power they have. It's completely hollow, and it's like, this is bullshit, you know.
Well, I think they know they have the upper hand. Like the left know they have the upper hand. They have the governments and the police force and the media all in their pocket. You know, like when I pointed out that we're facing extinction as a race, you know, the guy is shrugging his shoulders with such an arrogance to say, "Oh well, poor white man, you know, too bad for you, one more love," and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, I think insofar as we do have foreigners here and in America and all this kind of stuff, this kind of ethnic conflict and newcomers and all that kind of stuff, you know, and demographics or whatever, this whole conversation, I think if the elite stepped out of the room and said, listen, Black people can be kind of like in-group referencey, which they can, as is, right? But on top of that, white people, Irish people, white Americans, whatever, or British, anywhere, they can be as ethnocentric and as, you know, whatever, as everybody else. It's a fair game. I think if you didn't have the regime on top, kind of tipping the scales like that, I think actually race relations, insofar as they are, could be worked out and could be solved. Like white people would be able to say, listen, we are the dominant majority group by numbers. We want to stop immigration. We have a minority. We're going to respect you, and you're going to have you're going to be a protected group. You're not going to be. It won't be allowed or tolerated that you're persecuted or attacked. But you don't get to do the same to us, and you don't get to open the spigot to more immigration to take us over. So we're going to exercise what control we do have. And you're going to get to be ethnocentric and have your communities and have your in-group and not like mixing among yours and whites and all that. But, you know, whites can have their same kind of emotional response to stuff like that too. I think it could be worked out on that basis. It's pure, the elite situation or the elite will is actually almost as toxic as the diversity itself, I think.
It is. I don't know what's the elites are. They're on the end game now. They're on the last hurdle to secure their kingship over the human race for the next 1,000 years. You know,
Mm.
They want all their bloodlines, all their descendants to be rulers and kings and all over the mass plebs. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And they don't care
divided.
what color they are. They don't care what
Yeah,
religion they are. And
yeah,
to get back to the point about, ethno-nationalism, I think that's the crux of the matter. The bottom line in Africa, it's not just about the bell curve and, the low IQ and all that. It's they have a penchant for ethno-states. They go and genocide the neighboring villages because the people aren't the same as them. They want ethno-states. That's all they identify with, you know?
mm. Yeah, yeah.
So that's
Look
why
at South
the
Africa.
slaughter and bloodshed. That's why we have genocide happening across Africa every now and again. It's because they're completely biased towards in-group preference, and it's
Yeah.
natural.
Actually, that in group preference runs very deep, I think, in kind of African, let's just say, culture, right? Because you get that in Africa, you get the Hutus and the Tutsis and all that, and then you'll also get in South Africa. If someone from Mozambique or Angola goes to South Africa to live, they'll get killed. They'll get necklaced for that because they're spotted. I remember talking to Zambians saying, "Would you go to South Africa?" They go, "No way." And I thought, would they not? I mean, you're black though. Would you not just blend in basically? And they were like, no, they know me. It's a little bit different. So there's a strong, violent, ethnocentric a strand in there.
They wouldn't try this shit in a black country. It's only the whites because they know we're weak. We're completely weak. We're on our knees, as a race. What was I going to say?
I just one quick thing though. I just want to finish that point because you'll also see it in London, the neighborhood warfare. You'll see it in America, the Bloods and the Crips, and now in Dublin even you're seeing they have all these wanky words for themselves, the gang names or whatever. I don't know, the 313 or whatever it is, and they're like, "Oh, this is Balbriggan versus Blanche or something like that." And I'm going, "Listen, lads, you only arrived here like 10 years ago, and now you've reclassified these geographic communities as your own like gang designated zones. I mean, you've only been here 10 years and you're already stabbing each other with this gang thing." I think there is something, their ethnocentrism is so strong that it's not only against other races and ethnic groups, but they'll actually divide it right down to the last man, which is their ethnocentrism almost becomes down to a very man himself, which is why there's so much on this kind of honor violence, ghetto violence, this N-word, they will say it themselves. They go, this N-word said something about me. He disrespected me. And they'll go down and shoot him. And it's all that high status, that big man status they have. They're highly, more ethnocentric than any
They'll
white culture going.
in the middle. They'll do running battles, fucking violent bloodshed in the middle of a street for the sake of a street. They'll risk their own lives to the death. They'll fight to the death for a street. Their territory and their patch. They're unbelievable there. What was I going to say about the guy? I had to laugh with the two women coming on. The left is completely cooked. I says to them, it's no surprise that the English are come on. They're completely broken people. The English are, on their knees, begging for forgiveness from the black man. The colonizers, these English people, that they're on their knees to the black man, apologizing for their very existence. I says they want every single white person on the planet to be the same, and there's no reason for it to be in Ireland. I explained to him that we were slaves, we were colonized for 800 years and all, and he tried to tell me that the people in the Irish communities in the West Indies and Montserrat and all was immigrants just like him. Well, they weren't. They were brought there as slaves. The Irish people were enslaved long before a black man ever touched American soil. I was so tired and taxed with the conversation. I was surrounded on all sides by these lefties, these sycophants, obsequious little fucking drones, surrounded by them on Instagram. But the woman come out and says, the perfect example of multiculturalism is Sweden. There's blacks and there's whites and there's Muslims and there's Christians. I thought, is she deluded? Is she deluded? What echo chambers are these people in that they don't know that Sweden is in turmoil? If there's going to be an Islamic State happening in Europe, it's going to be Sweden. That it's the rape capital of Europe, the second rape capital in the world, next to Brazil or whatever. I don't know what it is, but I'm saying she used an example, Sweden as an example of something good. It's unbelievable. And the other fucking idiots start talking about, oh, he doesn't understand the Haitian Revolution. It's my understanding in Haiti, right, when the blacks gained power in Haiti, they slaughtered the white man. It was a
Yeah.
genocide, free range genocide on the white man in Haiti.
Yeah.
It's
And you know what, after they went after the whites, they went after the mulattoes, you know, the half black, half white people. So they went after the mulattoes because the mulattoes were seen as kind of a mid ground, and so they went after them. And after that, they started going after each other, because you look at Haiti now, it's got a high murder rate and all of that kind of stuff. So they're going after each other, and look at the absolute state of Haiti. You know, there's your
yeah, to use Haiti as an example of something positive or something, you know, it's unbelievable. These people, I don't know where they're getting their information, or why they're not even slightly aware of the opposite argument. You know, like we don't go in lefty circles, but we know what they're talking about. We know the gist of what they're saying, and we disagree with it and all that. But these people haven't got a clue of what we're talking about. You know, it's unbelievable. I was on the Niall Boylan show talking about Islam, talking about, you know, in-group preference and all, and it says even if the world was totally dominated by Islam and all the white people, all the Christians and all, and it was just an Islamic globe, it says the bloodshed would still continue because you've got the factions between the Sunnis and the Shiites and all this, and it's every single difference will be weeded out by bloodshed by the Muslim hands. What they want is a completely homogenous gloop of humanity where everybody is dressed the same, everybody says the same things, they all believe the same things, they dance in the same way on a certain day at a certain time all around the world. They want complete homogeneity. It's a mindless, tasteless gloop of Islam. You know, it's complete communism. It's like the death march. It's like the Chinese death march. Watching the Chinese military march in the hundreds of thousands. It's unbelievable.
I was in an Irish town there, obviously an Irish town, where else, sure, but in a town there, a rural town, kind of a big one. I'll think of an example. I don't want to name the one, but let's say Letterkenny, something like that, different place, but that kind of scale of like not a big city, but also not a village, right? One of those mid places. And it was the grimmest thing I've ever seen in my life. All commercial units, all drab, everyone dressed in just dressed in their pajamas, basically. And no offense to people, that's why I'm not naming the place, but like, you know, people just didn't look happy, and the buildings themselves. And, you know, some people, some like NPCs would say, you're giving out about buildings. What's the significance? Obviously, the buildings that surround people and the way people are dressed, the looks people have on their faces are representative of a regime. It's just like people say, I was in Yugoslavia in the 80s and it was like this. And when they say what it was like, they don't talk about some peer-reviewed article. They just talk about what it was like. They say, it was like this, it felt like this, the streets were like this, the buildings were like this, the people had this vibe off them. That's how people describe a place. If you go to China, you go, if someone says what's it like, you describe your surroundings and the general feel. So it is a very legitimate thing to point out the aesthetic and the feel and the mood and the physical look and concrete terms. And this, it was grim. I'm telling you, if you stepped out of a normal society, a cultured society, you know, which we did have at a certain point, and you were transported into this, you would full on say, this is some kind of numbed out dystopia. It's horrific. And you would know straight away, but we're kind of used to it now, I think.
Rod, what you're talking about there is it's an actual thing to be identified in history. It's called brutalism in architecture. It's a Marxist agenda to dehumanize the urban landscape, right? So all these concrete boxes, the modern building techniques, it was a Marxist plan to dehumanize people so much in their environment that they were just grey and drab. It was like watching the movie 1984, you know, with the architecture. It's a communist plot. It's a communist plot, and it's happening all over Dublin with these, you know, these 5-story apartment blocks, these little concrete boxes that people are going to be packed into. In 20 years, all these areas are going to become like Beirut. When all these children, you know, I'm not just saying half-caste children and the anchor babies, but all these immigrant babies, the first and second generations, when they hit their teenagers, and the Irish kids who are going to be involved in the culture, the kids are going to bleed and destroy the place. It's going to be like Beirut in them areas because of the
Yeah,
architecture. They're building,
yeah.
they're
It's
building, they're building Ballymun.2, you know, on steroids. They know exactly
and it's
what they're doing.
But it's worse because Ballymun actually had that sense, and at the time no one was aware of it because it was the only thing people knew. But it had that cultural homogeneity and stuff like that, cultural, ethnic, whatever. You know, Ballymun, they were awful flats and all that, but actually by the end of it, people actually had a kind of fondness for them because they, despite the conditions not being great, people, you know, every family knew every family, and there was that redeeming quality to it. That's gone
In
now.
the 60s, in the 50s and the 60s, when Ballymun and all these apartment blocks went up, there was huge optimism in the Irish community, and you know there was aspirations to get a better life and everything. I mean, when my mother lived in Ballymun when she was a kid, you know, or when she was first married, sorry, she lived in a high-rise block when she was first married, and she used to tell us that the concrete floors that the Ballymun was made of had underfloor heating, so you'd wash your clothes and lay the clothes out on the floor overnight,
Ah,
and they'd be dry in the morning. So there was a great sense of the modern technology and the new and all this kind of stuff. But it was just the social and cultural degradation, the decay starts setting in the culture with the drugs and everything, that people were
yeah,
disenfranchised,
yeah,
all the
yeah,
families. So it all went downhill. Like it was like this modern new dream that just turned to shit before their eyes in a couple of generations, you know.
yeah,
But back in the 60s, it was a new thing, you know, something never done before. Like it
yeah.
was never done in the urban landscape to build high rise blocks like the concrete blocks, but they didn't realize what was underneath all of it. It was Marxism,
Hmm.
you know.
That's true, yeah.
And
Because if a thing like Ballymun had been patrolled correctly, and honestly, people could call me radical if they want, but I'm just going by Lee Kuan Yew, the Singapore founder, his point of view and stuff. Heroin dealers have to be hanged, in my opinion, and you know, I've no problem saying that's just my point of view.
right,
But if you know, if instead of it being this kind of like the Ballymun thing, which you, like you say, had promise, instead of it being underwritten by this kind of Marxist ideology, if it was underwritten by a kind of a radical right ideology, kind of behind the scenes, the same as the way the left were, but kind of right, then it would have had a certain level of healthy authoritarianism and a kind of a culture. I think it could have been actually a bit on the promising side. Because you
now,
wouldn't have you know, you would be doing things like taking drug dealers out of it, like, and saying sorry, civil rights only go so far, stuff like that. We're not allowing it. We're just not, and we're not
not to
allowing our
big up.
communities to be destroyed.
Look,
Go
not
for
to
it.
big up the Germans in Nazi Germany.
Careful now, yeah, yeah, yeah,
No, they did
yeah,
really evil things, but
yeah.
there were certain
Well, yeah,
projects
yeah,
that they had set about, like the Bauhaus. You know, the Bauhaus architecture, the
yeah.
minimalism, and the new modern age minimalism in modernist art. They did some
Mm,
beautiful things with the architecture and all. And if it was done properly,
yeah.
it would to live in the environment. It would be like a zen peace within you, that
Mm,
there was a certain feng shui to the architecture, and everything was minimal, and there was no clutter and no noise and no stimulus, that
yeah.
you know, you could really spend time in peace and just meditate. But that
But
was the Bauhaus in Germany.
it's not just it's not just Germany either. Like it was them. You had Italy. You have where else did you have? I think Argentina. Places all over the place. You had this kind of radical right, third positionist ideology, and there were kind of communal spaces and stuff like that. That basically, like, it's a good idea up until the point where you go full Marxist on it and full kind of,
Yeah,
I don't know,
like
like radical
everybody
liberalism.
says.
Do you know what it is?
Uh,
The word is the word is radical liberalism. For me, it's not even Marxism. It's radical liberalism, where you put all of human beings with all their frailties and, you know, whatever, in a big pile in a big apartment block, and then you take away all the rules and the kind of cultural, because a vacuum will be filled. So if you have this radical liberalism where it's like to each his own, live your own life, there's no kind of code of culture and this and that and enforcement. Then of course the dealers come in and the state just throws you on €200 or whatever it is dole every week, and they leave you to fucking die. That's
I
the flaw.
I lived in a place like that for a good number of years, 7 or 8 years, up in Fisborough. There's a block of flats there. There's a little flats complex up in Fisborough, and It was like these concrete boxes where everybody's on top of each other and everybody has, social problems, like there was drugs and everything. You couldn't escape. You couldn't take 5 minutes to escape the sound of somebody else's voice in another location. People outside your window, hanging around outside your window. The guy above us, having terrible arguments with his mother. The guy next door to us, I think he was dying of lung cancer, so he was coughing 24/7. You could hear everything. There was no peace whatsoever, and it was the kind of environment where I decided to surprise my mother with a window box outside our front door to put some flowers in it to brighten the place up a little bit. It didn't last 24 hours on the windowsill. It was lifted, stolen by the guy upstairs who gave it to his mother. And he didn't even have the wit to hide it. I mean, I went out on the street, looked up, and there's my fucking window box with the flowers and all on his balcony. Like it was a complete fucking mindfuck. And that's the environment that they built. And it's all this socialist, the poor welfare state, the socialist aspect to it. It's there's no moral center in the community. It's all gone. It's all decay. It's unbelievable. I mean, there were good people there and everything, but they were afraid to go out. Like I was in the middle of a nervous breakdown myself, so I couldn't even go to the shop. It was an experience I had where I wouldn't even go to the shop for a bottle of milk. I'd rather do without tea than go out and deal with the people on the street, because there was gangs of kids, right, who'd gather around me in a circle and kick me and spit at me and call me a weirdo and a freak. Because I was like disabled, mentally ill, I stuck out like a sore thumb. I didn't even know how to dress myself. That at the worst of me illness, that all the children were like little fucking demons. It was like being set upon by a rabid gang of demons. And I think it was the parents that were encouraging the kids. See that guy? He's a weirdo. That's where they got it from. That's the kind of environment it was. But it's like that all across the down and out loser estates. You know what I mean? These concrete boxes on top of each other. It's completely dehumanizing, and it takes away the impetus and the will within a person to be a good person. Like, what's the point in trying in this environment? You know what I mean?
It is really a way to disenfranchise people. People feel like eventually they have no political voice and no will to stand up. I mean, it's the Netflix and Tesco kind of distraction thing.
This is why I resent it. All these pro-green city planners all talking about putting people in micro apartments where they can't have more than one child or whatever. It's completely by plan. They have world leading experts advising the West on how to do this. They know exactly what they're. You know exactly what they're doing. And in 20 years, when all these children are growing up, I'm telling you, it's going to be a completely different story. It's going to be Ballymun on a fucking huge scale. All these things. So the complaints about all these apartments and all going to majority foreign nationals and only a certain number of Irish people are going to get them. That's the least of your concerns. What this is going to do to society, whether they're foreign immigrants or not, is the fabric of society. It's going to be like Beirut in about 20 years, and there's going to be no fixing it. There'll be no going back.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you might have some of our immigrants starting to miss home when they see the state of it. But at least they'll have a home to go to. Come here, I'm going to leave it.
Yeah, it's laughable.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. You say the immigrants are going to think twice about going home. In London, the Nigerian women are sending their children back to Nigeria because it's safer there than it is on the streets of London. That's the way it's going to be in Dublin.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So closing thoughts. I don't know. I got on and I had me rant about that.
Irish lives matter. I know the feeling. You've kind of had your rant and then you're like, well, what am I supposed to say now? I'll leave it there. Irish lives matter. Prime time was interesting, and come here, Emmanuel. Thanks for joining me, man.
Thanks for having me on, Grover. I'm glad to be able to vent. It's a real catharsis for me. It's
nice, isn't
it?
Yeah. Yeah, happy days. I'll have to get a Shay Long or one of these things we can sit down on. Thanks everybody for watching. Do give me a subscribe as well, lads, please. And good night. Take it easy. I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay,